sport feel the same as elitism, where the important people get to sit up in the VIPs, looking down and watching us fight for scraps just to survive?
Those who do not have any sense of their own competence will become competitive.
I've been training for this my whole life.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Because their only pleasure is being one step ahead of somebody else.
Thank you for your consideration.
Hey, hello, hi. How are you doing this week? I am all good this week. I'm about to go out, so just doing a quick video for you guys because it's been a summer of sport here in Europe, and with the Olympics just kicking off, I've been thinking a lot about competitiveness. And I don't just mean competitiveness in sports or the Olympics, but in life overall in society. Why is it that we have this constant need to climb the imaginary ladder to get to the top of the pedestal, to look down on others and say that we're the best? And then there's also that basic competitive nature that we all have innately in us just to survive. How has the idea of competition affected how we choose to live our lives? And how can we break out of the constant cycle of comparison?
Part 1. The history of competition.
So there's no real way to trace back how and when competition actually started. Early humans had to compete for resources, mates, and their social standing just to ensure their survival and to pass on their genes. Competitiveness in terms of sport and leisure can be traced all the way back to the ancient Olympic Games in 776 BCE. At this time, you didn't have to be a professional sportsman or an athlete to compete. The games were open to men, not women at this point, but just men in general who wanted to compete, and it was generally soldiers who entered the competition. Similarly to today, kings, queens, those of royal and important status would watch the games and bet on who they think would win. And as we know, history only celebrates the winners. Whether it be in sports, politics, or war, these narratives have shaped the values and aspirations and the importance that we put on winning, ultimately perpetuating the belief that winning is paramount. And whilst competition can obviously be a positive thing, it can lead to innovation, personal growth, societal development, it can also lead to negative consequences when we look at how this is championed in everyday life.
Now life is hard, am I right?
Oh, yeah.
Wrong! Life is easy! You suck!
From an early age, competitiveness is ingrained in us. Many educational systems are designed to rank students based on academic achievements. We are often encouraged to compete for grades, awards, merits, scholarships, you name it, which reinforces the belief that being the best is crucial for a successful future. And whilst we can argue that this sort of competition in schools does build lessons in terms of perseverance, working hard, following through, being enthusiastic about something, it does create a false sense of reality about how the real world works outside of the school gates. Also, what about us kids who aren't really competitive? When you are by nature not really a competitive person, where do you sit then in the status quo of school and life? Social comparison theory states that people determine their own social and personal worth based on how they compare and stack up towards others within their own social circles. And this constant comparison can drive people to fight for superiority and dominance over others, ultimately leading to issues with their self-worth and identity. Only really feeling good about yourself when you're being validated by others, even people that you don't know, and also feeling justified by treating others badly because they don't match up to your level or your success. But with how we're reared to think about competition, and with it being so important in modern day society, particularly when we're young, there's one major red flag that now that we're adults we know. Being the best at something doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win. And more often than not, it is those that are the best that don't get the rewards they deserve. Taking a quick look at media entertainment, because I feel like that's another medium that definitely pushes competition, has had a huge effect on society, particularly modern society. When we look at game shows, reality TV, even fictional shows like the Squid Games, Hunger Games, we can see that we are definitely still entertained by the idea of competition, just like the royals were back in the ancient Olympic times. What I find interesting about these fictional shows though is that they often champion and platform the underdog, flipping the script and putting them on top of the winning pile opposed to being at the bottom. And I believe that we as a society find these films and these fictional shows so interesting because that's what we would like to see reflected in our society. We would like to see more of the good people, more of the underdogs winning in life, opposed to those that scam and scheme and claw their way to the top.
You're fired.
When it comes to how these shows have manifested themselves in society, I truly believe shows like The Apprentice and Dragon's Den have been instrumental in some of the ruthlessness that we're seeing in capitalism. Now, the corporate world has always been super competitive and ruthless. That's nothing new. But in modern day society, we are seeing this taken to a whole new level. The increasing competitive nature of the working world and the workforce, whether that's you working for corporate or someone working in a restaurant. I believe the fact that we've seen shows where people have stepped on others, have been so ruthless and so callous, and it's gotten them a job, it's gotten them a promotion, it's gotten them to a higher status. I believe seeing that makes people believe that if they behave like that in the real world, they will also reap the same rewards. But what these shows don't focus on or highlight is what happens if you live this way for a prolonged period of time. If you live in such a ruthless and callous environment for years, what does this do to an individual's psyche or their self-worth in the long run?
I mean, what if I don't want to live the way you live?
Oh, don't be ridiculous, Andrea. Everybody wants this. Everybody wants to be us.
So it's already been proven that striving to be the best can lead to chronic illness, stress and anxiety. And the pursuit to outdo others can often result in burnout or depression. Focusing solely on competition and external achievement can undermine intrinsic motivation and personal satisfaction. We may neglect things and activities that bring us joy if they don't result in winning or personal achievement. And I definitely relate to this. Whilst I'm not necessarily competitive because I'm too nonchalant for all of that, I definitely have the competition with myself, and we're often told, oh, it's good, compete with yourself, not other people. But that can also be a problem too. Even when it comes to me doing this YouTube thing, yes, I'm striving for something else and a new career, I do find myself competing with my other videos and the quality of those and the views that they get, and I want to outdo that. And I have found myself kind of putting off doing fun activities because it's like, right, I have to focus and hustle and be on YouTube. And that is a competitive nature in me, even though I think generally I'm not competitive. So it's interesting how this concept has intertwined into every aspect and fibre of our life and how it determines how we live on a day-to-day basis. Going back to the beginning of the video and speaking about human survival and how, you know, the competitive nature was developed out of getting resources and reproducing in order to see our genes and our species exist. It can be argued that we're still in a similar situation today. Our highly competitive nature as a society has exacerbated social inequalities. Those who tend to win that accumulate all of the resources and the scraps are left to everybody else. Opportunities and wealth are shared amongst the elites whilst everybody else has to fight to survive when there's more than enough resources to go around for everybody. Ultimately, this competitive nature just creates a wider gap between the haves and the have-nots. Alongside this, a culture that glorifies winners and stigmatizes losers, often discouraging people from exploring diverse paths that may lead to more general happiness opposed to achievement. How can we begin as a society to recognize that success comes in many different forms and step away from thinking that winning just means you're at the top of an imaginary pedestal? To mitigate the negative effects of competition, I believe it's important for us to strike a balance between competitiveness and cooperative values. As you know, I am big on community, and I really strive to help provide a space where community can be a more essential part of our society. By encouraging collaboration, emphasising intrinsic motivation, and fostering diverse definitions of success, I believe we can promote better self-worth when we look at how we rank ourselves compared to others in society. Now, I know that a lot of people say you shouldn't compare yourself to others, and I think that's a nice thing to say, but as I've just described throughout this whole video, it's in our nature, it's what we do. What I do think we have to do is eliminate the idea of external validation, creating more of a focus on what it is that we actually need to survive and the resources that we need and how we can accumulate them so that we can live, but also balancing that with what actually brings us joy. Because as we all know, more money, more problems. If we keep striving for success, we keep striving to be better than other people, we keep trying to compete with ourselves, where does it end? I believe the key is to work inwardly and to find what satisfies you, what makes you happy. And once you've achieved that, then ultimately you're a success. On that note, don't forget to disconnect to reconnect. What I mean by that is to put down the phone for a few minutes, reconnect with yourself, get centered, and go on and enjoy your day. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll be back next week. And yeah, like and subscribe. Thank you. I love ya. Bye.